Before moving to Berlin in 2007, Kerri Mullens lived in Chicago, Central Illinois, New Zealand, and France. Her work has most recently been published by The Extra Room, Border Crossing Berlin, Featherproof Press, and Turbine, the literary journal of Victoria University, New Zealand. She is seeking representation for her novel Big Mess. And now it's her sister.
She's listening on speakerphone. Okay. Rendezvous by Kerri Mullens. Francois herded the three girls into the conversion van. No one took the front seat. All the girls headed to the back. Francois in the driver's seat said, "No one wants the front. You girls always used to fight over it." Poupette rolled her eyes at the rearview mirror. That was like a long time ago. Poupette's eyebrows were thin and intense. When she was in a bad mood, they set like concrete, low on her eyes. Simone got nervous. Poupette sounded bratty and petulant, and this was George Glass's birthday dinner. "I'll take it," Simone announced. "I'll just duck if anyone sees me in it," she added silently, and gave Poupette a dirty look. Dinky heard this and thought it could be a fight if Poupette took it a step further and commented on how dorky Simone looked in the front seat of the conversion van. Or if Francois asked why the girls were acting strange. Or if Simone told Francois why Poupette didn't want the front. It could all turn bad. But it was George Glass's birthday, and they all knew it. George Glass occasions brought a sort of telepathy. Simone knew what Poupette had been like with George Glass, and Poupette knew what Dinky had been like, and Francois knew, and so on. All the combinations possible centered around the dead dad, and they didn't speak about him. It was only a few days after the funeral when they'd stopped. How could they speak about him? Why should they speak about him? How could they rally around him? It felt so cheap to use his dying as an excuse for TV movie family togetherness. Better to use the telepathy that soaked George Glass occasions, the assumption that everyone was sad, everyone was thinking the same sad thoughts, and let him rest. Let them rest. Francois looked grim as she smiled. While driving, she always had a faint smile, her screensaver face of concentration. Simone looked like she had a tummy ache. Poupette looked mean and unapproachable. Dinky hoped there would not be a fight, or crying. What if they all started to cry? They hadn't done that since right after. The crying together time had stopped as suddenly as it had started. Dinky knew everyone still cried, but Simone in her bunk, Poupette in her room, Francois in hers. Dinky sniffled often, but saved tears for the closet. When Simone wasn't there, Dinky would move the white hamper out of the bedroom closet to create a space for herself. She would sit on the carpet, pinker and puffier than the trodden carpet outside the closet, hug her knees and cry into her forearms, smelling her skin. Even if Simone were to come in the room, she wouldn't see Dinky exposed in her open bottom bunk cave. She'd have to open the closet doors, and by the time she got to the closet, Dinky would make her face dry and pick up a book, and even if she were caught, she wouldn't be found out. They pulled into the lot and then a space, but, "Mom, that's handicapped." And Simone's voice sounded far away and hoarse, and Francois said French things in whispers, and she backed up and almost hit another car, even though it was so early for dinner, and who would even be here? They would be alone in the restaurant, probably, and Francois finally pulled in crookedly to an acceptable spot and turned off the van. Poupette unbuckled and left the fastest. Simone followed right after, and Dinky climbed over the opposing seat to reach the door as she heard Francois taking loud, deep breaths. Outside in the cold air, Dinky's face felt wet and raw, but her eyes dried. She wiped her sensitive skin on her rough nylon parka sleeve, and the girls all breathed or did whatever they did in order to enter the restaurant, cool and bored. The hostess seated them, and they looked at the menus, which were green. Only 4 menus and only 4 seats. Last year, they had come for the same occasion, but had sat at a table by the window, the round one. This year, they fit into a booth table. The hostess came back too quickly and asked what they wanted to start with. "Crab rangoons, please," Dinky said confidently. That was something she knew absolutely for sure, which was that crab rangoon was delicious, and they got it every time. "No, please, we will not start with this. We need some minutes, please." The hostess left, and Francois coldly looked at her back until she was out of hearing range. Dinky said, but we always get crab rangoons. Francois pinched her lips together, and the girls knew she was serious, and Poupette said, can we at least get Cokes? Francois sighed and looked, again, like she was going to lose it. But what do I get here? Dinky asked plaintively. You can get the crab rangoons as your main meal, said Francois. She refused to use entree in the American sense of the dish, as it was a bastardization of the French word she had once cried out last year at that other table, and they had all been shocked. Fine, said Dinky, and began tucking her paper napkin into her collar, as she had seen done in cartoons. Can I get soup to start? Asked Simone. What kind of soup? Where is soup? Asked Francois, scanning her menu. Under soup, lobster bisque. Francois's eyes found it. No, she said flatly. Why not? Asked Simone. Last year we got Cokes and soup and crab rangoon as an appetizer. Francois said entree under her breath, but it was a small table and they all heard her. She did not respond to Simone. Maybe you're too fat for creamy soup, Poupette laughed meanly, and Dinky, who hadn't been paying attention, joined in. Poupette, Dinky, Francois hissed. Shut your mouths. Dinky said, but I didn't do anything, and picked at her paper napkin bib. Asshole, said Simone, but Francois said nothing.